Hi, everyone. Good afternoon and good evening, and welcome to the seventh episode of Misplaced. Very happy to be joined here today by Nicole Sartirani from Mikrokosmos. Hi, Nicole. Welcome. Nicole, can you hear us okay? All right, we're just gonna try to figure out the sound issue with Nicole. And in the meantime, I'll just remind our audience about Misplaced, the series. Misplaced is a series of 20 episodes organized by Livin Farms, and is a series to teach and help people learn about food systems, the problems within the food systems, and the solutions that are out there. What we do is we gather entrepreneurs and advocates and people that are really passionate about food and that are offering solutions to major issues, in particular environmental issues. And so today we're joined by Nicole Sartirani. Nicole has a very, very interesting background. She worked in gastronomy for many years, and she had a strong interest in sustainable agriculture and alternative proteins. And on top of this, she's also the daughter of the founder of a pest control company, who was also the inspiration for her current business. He was the first one to introduce her to the topic of edible insects. It was originally a joke, but Nicole took it very seriously and started researching edible insects and all the solutions to sustainable agriculture and alternative proteins that are out there. And so she made of edible insects her own business and, should we say, her own microcosmos. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce Nicole to talk to us about storytelling through the culinary arts. Nicole, if you're ready, I'll pass it on to you. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be part of this web series. There are so many interesting characters, and the idea that so many people share hope for a better, sustainable world give me really, really much power, and help me to this call in action with the people. As you said, exactly, I'm Italian, and I grew up in a countryside, in a small city in the surrounding of Milan. And as I grow up, for me, in my family, the food has always been a big issue. I had the luck to live in the country where we also had some animals that we were farming, especially my grandparents. But I loved to be there. And so since I am a child, the connection between the food and the nutrition was pretty clear to me. This connection is getting in the last year always more lost. The thing is that unfortunately we are living now in so many city centers that we are not able to see where our food is grown. There are children here in a city that really think that chicken comes from the supermarket. So there are so many misunderstandings about the food chain from the production to the consumer. Things that exactly from my past was something given and so much clear. When in this sense, I started to approach the gastronomy world in Berlin some years ago, I really got surprised by how this food chain was getting bigger and bigger and how the consume was increasing. This is because of the welfare that we were used to live in the last year and to experience. Our comfort were always more about our lifestyle, and the food is reduced nowadays to something fast that we want to consume quickly. We don't want to spend time on cooking. We don't want to take care really of our menu of the week. We just want to eat something cool, something tasty, something fast. This is not exactly the way I was grown up and I was used to see the food. So this point like moved me as a person to try to find out new solution and to think about what happened in those last year that took us to this scenario. For example, this is the current situation that we have. We have flood, we have fires, we have house melting, ice melting, and now really at really higher point in a fast way. We have pollution, which is contaminating our river, our sea. We see also whales full of plastic. Nowadays, we know the problem of the plastic in the sea, which is for the 2/3 empty. So really the situation we are facing is not happy, and this is a lot to do with our livestock production beside the effects by the climate change. These two problems are really like the two big the two biggest causes of the current situation. Moved by these problems and by the feelings I always felt for nature and for animals. People are taking different kinds of decision. There are people that are getting vegan, people that are getting vegetarian because of sustainable reason and because of the life of the animals that we see. They die, thousands of animals are dying and getting to extinction for our welfare. And this was a situation that I really could not deal with, or that didn't let me sleep, basically. So in my thoughts, I started to think about how could I make a small difference as one human being in the whole world. I wanted to do something to change this. And I know that, of course, to change the world, we need to be unified and to change all together. But at some point, it's just about starting and doing something in our all-day life in the small. You always say, politic you do at the supermarket. And now it's really what it is, or what it meant for me, making my social politic by the choices that I make every day in my small living. So what I afford now is that I quite jumped into the issue of the insect for a joke, exactly as you said, Christina. My father had a pest control company and was an exterminator, so somehow the issue of the insect was familiar for us, but really we never had any scientific or entomological approach to insect. I just grew up in the countryside with different kind of insect around me, but honestly without paying so much attention to them. And in this wondering of solution, this issue really exploded into my brain as a suggestion, but also as a solution at a certain point. Because as soon as you read the prospect that the FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United States, was published in 2013, insects are described as a key factor for the future food, as a sustainable food. And in this moment, I really started to think different. Insects are not only a sustainable alternative. Exactly by the problem that we have, insect could be a better solution for the land use and the water consumption. If you see like the graphic, I here have some histographic, you can really combine insect even to plant-based protein sources by the use of water, the use of land, and the emission of CO2 gases, the insect always win. The proportion are also really big, and compared to any other animal, they are much more sustainable for our planet. In this sense, I was also illuminated by the thing that it's the only animal that we could good farm in an apartment. When years ago I watched the TED talk of many people that started to approach insect, was clear for me is that insects do not need a cow or like chicken really big space to move. There are some people that are farming small animal in the apartment, but so small, and that could really multiply themselves so fast there were any. So I started to think about how I could have grown insect in my place. And this was the best solution for me, because I could trust myself. I could trust the way I feed the animal, the life that I give to them. I could trust the way I kill the animal and take this responsibility. Do not use too much the food, but just what we need and to live. And actually nowadays we don't need so much protein in a weekly diet, and to avoid always more big livestock production companies product, and trying slowly to be independent. We see this possibility also with the project of urban farming. So it's possible. It's the time to start, and it's much more sustainable. From the healthy point of view, also insects are so much valuable. Their nutritional value are really high, and not only in terms of protein, but also in terms of vitamins. They are so rich of B12. They are rich of omega-3 and 6, values that are even in the fish rare nowadays, and that we cannot find such a high quantity in any other ingredients that we can put on our table. Second ingredient, a second aspect is that insects are so easy to integrate in our food. Their taste is pretty neutral. So to combine a good meal made out of carbohydrate and vegetables, or some beans, together with the insect, it's really like a joke. You can use them as a topping. You can play with their consistency. They are so crunchy and tasty for this reason. And if you don't want to watch them, you can use them as a flour. You can just grind them. It's really easy for the people to use them, even as a powder. So there are no limit for the insect kitchen, and this is something that should really let people jump the gap, that keep us distant from the insect consumption. Insects are pretty well consumed in every part of our world where the climate is good. It's about the 30 degrees that they need to develop at their best. Why the reason why not in every country of the world are insects well consumed. But if we see all the part of Central America, Africa, and Asia, they are well consumed. So it's about the weather condition, if why insects are not in our traditional kitchen since years. And in those countries, they are pretty well consumed. Asia lost in the last year a little bit this tradition, because it was seen like something that poor people were used to do. Unfortunately, the same happened in Africa. Africa were consuming a lot of grasshopper and termites, but with the pollution of the countryside, people started to get sick, and that's why they stopped to consume insect. Nowadays, they're really skeptical to approach insect as food again. They see really it like something for poor people, something ancient from the grandparents that didn't have the welfare that people now emancipate are living, and so they reject the insect. The market is growing, but mostly at this point for insect as a food for other animal, so not for human consumption principally, and as a fertilizer from our countryside. Because the aspect for the agriculture, sorry, because the aspect of positive aspect of insects are many and many. What I started to face was the food, because in my opinion, through the food, we could really like approach a moment of communication. Insects are, from my experience, so interesting to put in the gastronomy. As you said, I had some experience as an actress, and I studied communication and languages. What my best focus is really to try to convince people that insects are not disgusting at all, and that they can be like a delicious food. Delicious food like in Central America. In compared to the other countries that I mentioned, where it's much more difficult with the culinary culture, insect, especially in Mexico, have always been a delicacy. They were the food of God. So there is nothing bad connected to the insect in those areas, just something precious and delicious that you only access to for special occasion. And this is what for me was the most inspiring images of them, and this is what I like to transmit to the people, this idea of something precious and nothing disgusting. My key factor in this case was the food, and so I started to develop some concept and to think about how I could convince people to eat. So first of all, for sure, the plate has to be beautiful, appetizer. Your eyes, what they have to be really like wonder and like catched by our plate, because if not, it's really difficult to overcome the disgust. Then you can be playful. Like in this case, you see, for example, a classical game that we play. It's the sushi. Sushi is something funny, is something beloved, is something trendy. It's like one bite, and this is also one of the best point that I find out with insect as food, that if you just have one bite, it's nothing too big, it's nothing too small, you just try, approach it slowly, and it will be really like easier and funny. And after the first bite, you want more, and you understand that you can play really with every kitchen tradition and have fun integrating the insect in it. So for the concept that I founded, this Mikrokosmos was originally just a container of ideas where we could put together like art and develop in different aspects and the food, so that we could combine insect in something more theatrical and something that could be delicious. That's why you can see more pictures about the plate that we do. We try to do something elegant, so to evaluate really the ingredient, and that's really important, so that we really go further from this idea of food for poor people. It's a food for people that knows and look for something precious and special and as a sustainable solution. Here you can see tacos and some other events that we do. The contest you create, it's really important. We approach people in this as a street food, like Asia style. We made events like jungle style, so that people immediately come into a contest where they are invited to experience something new and exotic. The farming point came between it, but it's something that we can only do for our own consumption. I mean, to sell insect in the European countries, you need certificated insect. This is one of the problems that we had at the first year with the taste of the bugs. The point is that we could only have dried insect, like frozen dried insect, and from the gastronomy point of view, this was a big limit. When you farm, you have access to a fresh resources, so a fresh food which is just frozen and is the best way you can consume it. Here you see, for example, the prototype of the Livin Farm, the first hive that was made for flower worm. That was for me the base of my inspiration to farm myself. There are really different kind of way of farming, different kind of insect that you can farm in your place. I started with the flower worm. Now I have even some cucarachas, different kinds of worms. It's up to you, and it's really something you can, as I said, trust, because you made yourself, and it's something important. Now most of the people told me like, okay, Nicole, you tried to convince us to eat the first insects. You made them appetitable, delicious somehow, and funny, but we are too far to start to grow them ourselves. I know it's early to really expect that all the people are coming through all the people jump directly this gap and approach this world so quickly. But it's a time to start. So what I'm focusing on now, it's the teaching process. We started to teach to people how they could think different. And what we do in our workshop is, first of all, to let them visualize the difference that they have between some food that we already consume. Like here you can see like oyster, snail. There are some stuff that could be really much more disgusting than insect. And most of all, to explain the sustainable aspect, the nutritional value, and the easy way of farming that you have. From farming insect, you also have an upcycling concept. You do not only have a way to consume your food waste, but you only get something in return, which is high quality protein, but also fertilizer, really powerful fertilizer for the plants. So when we explain the chain of use of insect and the advantages of the farming, we can really influence more and more people. It's a lot about talking and sharing, but basically it's like the best things I felt we could do. We play also a lot with games like this one, I think everybody knows, like Find the Difference. It has sense for sure to approach the children. especially because they are our future. They do not have any preconcept fixed in the mind that block them to the approach of the insect as well as they would approach any other food. So it's really something that it makes sense to start with the children, to introduce them to this fascinating world, to this micro that could be also a macrocosmos. and and that's why, so we are carrying all the activities really with a big motivation, and with a lot of hope that slowly things will change, that we can change altogether the current situation, and fascinated by the insect as a key factor for our new solution. We will start now also to sell some own product. We will try to, we hope that always more species of insect will be allowed to be consumed in the European Union. In Asia, for example, there are much more possibility. Do not be afraid to try the insect war, the insect kitchen, because there are really thousands of species which are already declared edible, and more we learn, more we discover edible species, and it's not boring word at all. You can really fill up a buffet of delicacy with six feet, 6 feet, and I really hope that people will see them like a normal food, but especially as a sustainable food that we can approach better than something else. They're even the most digestible protein. So I hope that really everybody in the world start to see the possibility as a good one, and without any discrimination, because it's possible, because it's happening, because it's needed, and and really I'm totally open to speak with everybody that have some curiosity. Now with the corona time, of course, the culinary aspect of my work are decreasing, but there is a lot of communication that we are offering online. So in terms of cooking classes as well, and of talks, we are really there to open different visions, and to exchange opinion, and really to make also confrontation with from country to country, like saying and aspecting that, because we know that the regulation about insect in the food is different in every country. So it's not even so easy to start a business in this world. It depends by what your goals are, but we are really like full of ideas. We always find more people that approach us and want to cooperate in some at some levels, and this is really an inspirating word that we can face and we can approach together. This is basically what we do, like since 2017. Would you like to add something? I think that exactly like now we said more or less all the aspect of our job, and presented as now it's up to you, like just to tell me which are your question, which are your curiosity. Did you already try the edible insect? And I really recommend you to follow also the next episode, which is about the food waste, which is exactly one of one of the best aspect also that regard insect and the food waste in general, the recycling of our waste. It's exactly a big potential which insect has to do as well.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Nicole. Thank you so much for this presentation and
Do you
for.
have question?
Can you hear us okay? All right. I think Nicole might have a bit of an issue hearing us, so we're just gonna try
Now
to.
I think I hear you again.
Okay, fantastic. Can you hear?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Awesome. Awesome. Perfect. That didn't take long. So that's good. Yeah. So I was just thanking you for this great presentation, for all these facts that you shared about, how environmentally friendly insects are, the origins. I think one great aspect of your expertise is like your travels and your interest in the culture and this like anecdotes that you shared about edible insects and their origins. For example, the example of Mexico and how they were considered a food close to God. I think this is all very, very important to share with the general public so that we can grow closer and closer to insects. And I also liked the example of sushi because we actually bring up sushi ourselves as an example of a type of food that was not exactly considered desirable at some point in history, and then became a delicacy, right? So why can't we do the same with insects? And you brought them together. It's perfect. There's definitely quite a bunch of questions and comments for you, Nicole. So I'm really, really excited to go through them. I had one that I wanted to start with, so I'm going to steal you before our audience. And um, I think I mentioned that at the beginning when I introduced you, but you also have, a background in theater, in the performative arts, which I think is absolutely great. And you see the restaurant as a theater, right? So you're a storyteller, of course. So I'm really curious to hear from you, what is the best theater piece that you put together in a restaurant through edible insects?
I know, absolutely. I would answer the what's a ceviche, because one of the first approach that I had with the gastronomy world here in Berlin was because a friend of mine opened a restaurant. I was supposed to work there like a couple of days a week. And there it's exactly where I fall in love for this job, and I started to see it really like a proper theater that was opening their doors every day and having real life on stage. Because this restaurant was a cevicheria. Ceviche is like a Peruvian typical food, and it was the first cevicheria in Germany. So basically, most of the people, especially in Berlin and in the rest of Germany, had no idea what a ceviche was. And so we had really to explain to our guests something about the history of Peru and what was amazing about the dishes that we have, and especially a ceviche. So there I really like make up a little monologue somehow, and it became the pleasure for me actually to tell this and to share it with the guests that we have, so that we in the end I was really like amazed by the work, and slowly I understood how good was to communicate and how rich food could be, the communication through the stomach that passed through the stomach with the food.
Fantastic, awesome. That is a great, great example.
Mm.
I wish I could have, experienced that. All right, I want to make sure that we can pass on to questions from the audience. And we have one of our attendees who I assume is in Japan. I can't quite read clearly his nickname here. There you go, it popped up. He lives in Japan and he's saying many people here, many younger people here consider insects to be dirty. And I think we also experience that, like this correlation between insect and dirt, insect and non-hygienic aspects. So what is one good way to overcome this challenge?
So, in my opinion, the principal aspect is the knowledge. You need knowledge before you make judgment. So, if you want to approach the insect world, forget about what it's been said, because it's all untrue, to not say a bad word. They are not dirty at all, for example. Compared to pigs, insects are 1,000 times more clean, are some of the cleanest animal that we have on our planet. Then of course you have different kind of species, but basically they are really clean. So a grasshopper, for example, is so skeptical even in the search of her food. She doesn't eat everything in a field. No, she pick up just the best vegetable species, the best fruit plants or trees. It's it's really something peculiar that insect does, even in their choice of food. So if you have something given, like they are dirty, or they multiply so fast, something can be true, something can be wrong. So please inform yourself. Information is the key of the first, or not the key, but it's the first step towards the insect world. That's why we work so much in the communication, because people fear what they don't know. So if we give them the right knowledge, the fear will be forgotten.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think we at Livin Farms are pretty much aligned, right? Like I think you brought up such a great example. I love the anecdote about the grasshopper being like so picky with their food and so selective.
And
So
may I say
yeah.
another example, which I think another aspect which is also so important that I didn't mention before in this aspect, is that even if massive grown insects are exactly so clean and so different and compared to other animal, that they do not need so far antibiotics. So they really develop some bacteria in their ground, but nothing pathogen that can be transmitted to human. So they're not only a clean animal, but they are also healthy animal. They they rarely get sick, and
Mm.
this is why there is not really case in the human history where a human being has been sick because of an insect. We are made to eat insect. There is an enzyme in our stomach made to digest the chitin, the exoskeleton of the bugs. So even if you could be allergic to this chitin, and of course you can have an anaphylactic shock. This can always happen with something you're allergic to. But in terms of healthy, insects are really powerful. So compared to exactly chicken, fish, which is really full of antibiotics nowadays, we can really have a livestock produced on a healthy base.
And that is very important when we talk about like growing demand for protein, right? And making livestock scalable but also bearable on the environment. Absolutely, there sounds like there's no no comparison. Thanks for that. I think we're running a little bit short on time, but I did want to give the chance for at least another question. And then what we can do, Nicole, is that we can pass the other questions to you, and maybe we can share them in a post if you want to comment on those. We have one in from Luke asking about edible insects and whether you know if they are allowed in the UK. Only seen them for
Yes,
birds here. They
yes,
are.
yes, I see your question, Luke. And also there is not only as a feed for animal, but also as a food for human consumption. You have four insects which are now allowed: crickets, grasshopper, and two kind of worm, among flower worms, of course. And they're not so bright consumed and not everywhere allowed. It depends where they comes from. They need to be Europe certificated. Look about now the specific of the last year of England, but there are food project like the Eight Grab, and there is one of the best places that there are in the world in England actually, which is the Grab Kitchen. There is a woman which is farming her own insect in the backyard and then cooking them. It's like a couple, it's like an entomologist or a biologist, and she is a chef, and it's like the ideal imagine of the agritourism of the future. and it's used also a lot for teaching. Schools are invited there. It's a really nice project. I think it's like something like 500 kilometers far from London, on the coast, on the west coast. But yeah, just make a little research. There are food reality. I've been myself to the Archipelago restaurant in London, which is selling some insect dishes among other Asian exotical specialties.
Fantastic. Awesome. So for all of you guys living in the UK, now you have some tips on where to go and get your bugs, your edible insects in the UK. There are more questions. If you are okay to take one more, Nicole, maybe we can squeeze the last
Yeah,
one
sure.
in. Oh,
The
okay,
bug burger, I
fantastic.
see it.
Yeah, you see it up
Yeah.
there. I think it's a good one. So if you want to
Yes,
take it.
it's
Mhm.
exactly what I was mentioning before. I'm sorry that I speak so much because
It's all right.
for me it's really difficult to be simple when we speak about insect. There are so many things to say, but exactly how to put it in your habit, put it in your diet. So you don't need to change the diet you are currently doing. Just add insect instead of meat. So like make this little exchange. You can use them as a cereal in the morning with yogurt and fruit. It's a really nice way to have them. You can use as a topping on a salad. And if you were, for example, cooking like potatoes, vegetables, and a steak, you just do potatoes, vegetable, and a bunch of fried cricket, as well as you can put them in a couscous or on a pizza. Instead of the prosciutto, you put some insect. You can use them as a flour if you bake something, if you bake bread, if you bake pizza, if you bake a cake. Just add a part of or substitute a part of the flour you would use with an insect-based flour. So it's really easy to integrate insect in our all-day diet, and this is the first step, like to um, to insert them in our habit. The good thing is that you do not need to change your habit. You just need to change the ingredients of your dishes a little bit.
Fantastic. That is a great suggestion, and it's also similar to what our previous speakers were suggesting to make a transition to a more plant-based diet. Right, small shifts, small additions, small substitution. You can do exactly the same with edible insects, and that's also how you get used to it and realize it is not that bad. One of your comments was when you were talking about the sushi, the bite size, right, taste, to just try
Yeah,
it. That's why we always say try just a bite, right? It won't hurt. So we can start
nice
from
way
there.
to say, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have
Well,
our motto in the end, which is really like, why not? There are so many positive aspects connected to insect as food, as alternative, and no one really that should block you to try. It's really like, why not? It's not disgusting. It's not bad taste. Just try it. Try to buy it.
agreed. So on that note, we will leave you with this, call to action. Just try it. Try one bite. And I just want to thank you, Nicole. Thank you very much. This was great, informative, fun as well. And I hope I'll have the chance to come to Berlin and try one of your dishes and one of your culinary experiences. So with this, I'm going to say goodbye to our audience and thank you so much for tuning in once again and for asking your questions. As a reminder, Nicole also said that next week we're joined by our CTO, Thomas Rio, and he's going to talk more about the superpowers of insects and technologies when it comes to food waste management. And I also want to remind you all, guys, that by filling out the feedback form for our episodes of Misplaced, you also stand the chance to win 150 US dollars gift card for our web shop. And I believe our team is also sharing, there you go, a $30 discount code for our web shop again. So once again, thank you everyone and see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you to you. It was an honor to be part of Misplaced. Bye.